I'm Alad Gilo, one of the co-founders of Reach. Cold Email Hot Takes is a mini video series in which we talk to inspiring sales leaders about their approach to outbound sales. In this week's episode, we're really excited to have with us Mark from Allego. Can you quickly introduce yourself, Mark?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. As you say, I'm Mark. I'm one of the sales leaders at Allego here in the UK, and I'm also the author of #1 bestseller, Problem Prospecting.
Amazing. We're super excited to have you on with us. I think you're going to have a ton of interesting insights, especially when it comes to cold outreach and how to get people's attention, which we're all trying to do. So that brings me sort of to my first question for you. You know, in this world in which everyone's just so overwhelmed, you might say, with the amount of emails they receive, right? I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you do or that you tell your team to do for reaching out cold to get noticed and help stand out from the noise?
Sure. So I think the first thing you said there, right, is we're overwhelmed by email. Before I came on, I just did a little bit of research. And I mean, we're filming this. It's 7 minutes past 12 in the afternoon for me, and already I've had 37 emails today. Now that's from all different places, but it's 7 minutes past 12. I've had 37 emails, and I'm no one special. There's far more senior people in Allego than me. Far more senior people. You know, there's close to 300 employees here, but I've had 37 emails. And as I say, the day's only a few hours in. 6 of those emails are from other sales reps trying to get my attention. So around 16% of the emails that I've received already today are from sales reps. In terms of what I tell my team to do is the email needs to be as short, as easy as possible. It doesn't give that person a job. And it's really clear the reason you're reaching out, what it is that you're looking to do. And that email needs to read like it was written specifically for that person. That's what I try and get my team to do. And here's the reason why. If you don't do that, you look and sound just like everybody else. And it's super easy in this world to hide behind a volume game. You know, you can sit and all these wonderful sequencing tools can make you look like you've been really busy. The reality is you've clicked a few buttons. When I look at the emails I've had today, I'm just going to read the subject lines out for you. So the first one is a sustainable business model. They asked for 15 minutes of my time, and they wanted me to book that call in. They've given me a job. Next one is meeting request. And then they asked for a quick discovery call next week. I don't know what quick means to them, but for me, discovery calls take half hour at least. The next one is medical devices conference. They wanted me to buy a sponsorship package. They asked for a call this week or next. The next subject line was hit sales quota. They asked for 15 minutes of my time and wanted me to book it. The next one was hoping to speak. And then in the email, they want a quick chat early next week. And then the other one I've received today is the only one with any thread of personalization in the subject line. Says, Mark, quick question. And they asked for a 30-minute call next week. So just in terms of the emails I received today, the only bit of personalization was my name in the subject line. They're all asking me for a call. And some of them have asked for I've been asked for an hour specifically, and then I've been asked for quick chats as well. And time is people's finite. It's that finite resource. They only have so much of it. The reality is, I struggle, uncomfortable truth, to give my team the time that they need, let alone to give it away. And being asked for time can trigger people because everyone feels busy. It doesn't matter what job they do. Everyone feels super busy because that's their perception, that's their reality. And when people ask for time, you're asking for something that is the most precious to them and gets a knee-jerk reaction of, I'm too busy, and it isn't effective. So that's the problem, and that's how I try and get my team to combat that.
So it's interesting. So what you're saying is that one piece, of course, is personalizing, making it feel like the recipient, had this email written for them. That they're not just one of many in a general kind of sales sequence, and reducing that friction, right? Because what we're talking about here, when you ask for time, you're creating a friction, you're creating as you kind of mentioned, like a knee-jerk reaction that we all say, no, that's my time. I'm very protective of it, right? Like I don't want to. I'm not just going to give that to anybody. Otherwise, I wouldn't have time for anything. So does that mean that you and your team are really focused on what we would call kind of a softer CTA, not asking for time straight off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, so don't get me wrong. Like the purpose here is to create the next conversation, if there is one to be had. The vast majority of people you reach out to won't want to have that conversation, and that might be because they're genuinely not a good fit. It might be they're super busy themselves. It might be that now is just not the right time. And of course, if everyone you emailed was a good fit, everyone would do it, right? So
Right.
I appreciate there's a mix there, but when you reach out to someone, you want to get their attention, make them aware of you, and almost like tease the next episode, like that being the analogy, like an episode, right? At the end of your favorite TV show, there's a little tease coming up next, and it's up to you. Do you want to stay up and watch one more, or do you want to go to bed and watch it the next day? Emails that tease that there could be a next step here, if they wanted to, I find get the best response rather than requesting time and requesting conversations, which are very much what you want as the sales rep, right? Everyone knows that's what you want, but actually
Right.
it's about what do they want? What would they get out of this? What's going to be valuable for them?
Yeah, I love that. I think like if you kind of have to earn people's time, right? So you really have to really emphasize the value, what's in it for them. We spoke to David Benton from Cognism. He mentioned a similar approach, which is what's in it for them, right? If you can answer that, you have a much better chance of sort of getting them to agree to giving you any time, whether it's an email, a call, or something like that. So it made me think, how much, so you mentioned personalization, right? You mentioned, only one or two of the ones that reached out to you just now are sort of personalized. How much do you emphasize personalization? Is that important for you or your team when you're reaching out? Do you find it effective? And what are kind of some of the things that you use to personalize?
So personalization is key, and there are different levels, right? You can be to the extreme where it's a little bit creepy, what you know, but there is a path you can walk. My personal opinion is if it's easy to find, it's easy to reference, right? And there's so much out there now that people are more engaging with content. So people might not post their own content, but they might engage with content, liking something, commenting on something. They might put something in their bio that screams to what you do. But look, I'll let the listeners make their own minds up. Here's a great couple of stats for you that we've said. So we use Outreach, certainly not an advert for Outreach, but one of their features is something called sentiment analysis, and it lets you see what's working. When I looked at reps that personalize and reps that don't, I took two in particular. One had a 19.6% response rate. There was little personalization there. And one that had a lot of personalization had a 51.2% increase rate in terms of responses. Now, 19.6 to 51.2 is actually 161% increase in response rate. And when I looked at what the difference was, it was personalization. And to add to that, the email without personalization had a 57.7% rate of objections. So the responses that were coming back, 57.7% had objections in them. The one that had personalization had a 30.2% with objections. That is 47.66% less objections when you personalize. And when I looked into what personalization is happening here, it was saying thank you for something you've written, something you've shared. It was complimenting them on something they've achieved. It was referencing groups that they've got in common. It was talking about the fact that they may have studied at the same place or worked somewhere previously in similar worlds. It wasn't, I know you've got a 4-year-old son and your favorite coffee from a coffee store is a latte. It wasn't creepy. It was, I've noticed this. I either want to comment on that, compliment you on that, or say thank you for that, or just point that out as a way in which to have that personalization there. And I think the stats speak for themselves.
Absolutely. I think, we definitely see that on our side as well. I mean, the difference in reply rates that we get from personalized versus non-personalized emails is enormous, easily 2 to 3x. So I'm curious, how much is personalized? Are you just talking about sort of an icebreaker, like, hey, I noticed you liked this post about X, or is it, how much? Is it half the email? Is it mainly looking at sort of LinkedIn and their activity there, or do you look for news articles or things like that? What are some of the things you?
So a mix, really. One of my favourite games to play is when someone says to me, I can't personalise. I say, I bet you can. And we look at the profile, we look in the news, we look at there will always be something. Always be something. LinkedIn is obviously the best source. But here's the reality. You say how much, right? It really doesn't take much to stand out. Those 6 subject lines I've received today, only one had my name in the subject line. The rest could have literally been rinsed and repeated and sent to anybody. I mean, the reality is, Mark, quick question could be a mail merge. I genuinely cannot think of an email I've received this year that was personalised. And again, this isn't me saying I'm anything special, but I post content almost every day on LinkedIn. I comment on LinkedIn. I've written a book, and no one ever references anything like that. I go on podcasts quite regularly. No one has ever tried to prospect me off the back of something I've done. And the reality is, people write stuff on any form of social media, be that LinkedIn, be that Instagram, and TikToks of this world that the younger generation use. People post it because they want attention. They want that acknowledgement. And if you email someone simply saying thank you for writing that, or I appreciate your thoughts on this, that gives that person a shot of adrenaline, and they are more inclined to reply because they feel like they're having a conversation with someone rather than an anonymous person that simply wants their time. So personalization is important, but you don't need to go crazy to stand out. You really don't, because too many sales reps, I'm just going to say, are lazy and hide behind generic sequencing to play the numbers game. And they're doing themselves and the profession a disservice when they do that.
No, it's really true. It really doesn't take much. It's just enough to kind of show that this isn't just like a prepackaged email that everyone's getting, to show that you've seen the person. Like, people are, on a very basic psychological level, people want to be seen. They want to feel like they're unique. And all we're doing, I think, is trying to, lower that barrier of resistance, right? Lower that wall, so they'll say, okay, yes, you put some time to know about me. I will put in some time to read your email. So I very much agree with that. A lot of people talk about this needing to add value in the email, kind of make it about, of course, them, that your prospect. This isn't about you. It's not about your features. It's not about what your product does specifically. I'm curious, how do you try to add value in your emails? Like, how do you kind of show that this is about them and that they can benefit from this? Are you sharing blog posts, I don't know, case studies or things like that, or something else?
Not really. I do get frustrated with the phrase of give value in a cold email. I kind of think to myself, what value can you give to someone that you've never spoken before? It's a cold email. And I think it's just such a buzzword of give value. But what does it really mean, right? No one's really going to give me value by emailing me case studies and blogs, because I've not got the time to read it. And again, that's not me saying I'm the busiest person in the world. It's my perception, my reality. I'm busy, right? Everyone's busy.
Right.
Here's what I want. If someone's going to reach out to me, I want to see that that's written for me. They've done a little bit of research, and there's a genuine reason that I might want to speak with them. So instead of leading with value, I try and get my team to lead with problems. Problems make brains pay attention. Problems get people engaged. So what's really important, and I sympathise with SDRs in particular that are brand new to the world, is most of the time they're reaching out to people that are doing jobs they've never done before. So, if I just think about my own career, when I've been an SDR, although it was a long time ago, I wasn't called an SDR, I had to reach out to online assessment managers. I had to reach out to HR directors. I had to reach out to learning development directors. I've reached out to hotel managers, all as part of the companies that I was working for. Take the last one, for example, hotel managers. I've never run a hotel in my life. I don't know the first thing about it, but yet I'm trying to email that person. So what SDRs need to do, and sales managers need to be responsible for this, is helping that SDR understand what's the reason that person goes to work. Let's take the hotel manager as an example, right? You need to make sure the SDR understands the hotel manager's life, why they go to work, what they're trying to achieve, what language that they use in their world, and what problems they like to face on a daily basis. Problems that irritate them, problems that when they get home for night time and their partner says, "How was your day?" What do they moan about? Because everyone moans about their jobs. If you can find the thing that they moan about and the way in which they moan about it and put that into a problem statement with some personalization and simply a soft close of, does this sound like something we should talk about? Open to learning more. Would you be interested in a couple of ideas you may or may not have considered? That gets responses because it teases them that the problem they have could be solved. And here's the thing. If they don't have that problem, don't worry about it because you're not for everyone. You can't be for everyone. So I'm not about leading with value. I'm about leading with personalization, teasing a problem, asking if that resonates in any which way. And if it does, would they be open-minded to hearing some ideas that they may or may not have considered? I genuinely believe it's that simple. But here's the thing. It's time-consuming. And SDRs are measured on number of meetings booked. So they try to think, what's the quickest way I can get the most bullets out to hit as many targets as possible? And there is a disconnect there. I do sympathize with an SDR who is monitored daily on meetings booked rather than what's the quality of their outreach, because that's harder to measure. To measure the quality of it, you've got to do what I've just done there and gone in and looked at it and analysed it and coached it, where it's really easy to look at a dashboard from a manager point of view and point fingers and demand more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what strikes me is you're kind of mentioning empathy in a way. Like you really need to empathize with your prospect and really try to put yourself in their shoes, try to understand what is it they're grappling with, what are the problems they face in their role. I know some of the ways that, for example, we'll try to do this is we try to break up into different personas, and we know that certain personas have common problems, faced in sort of different roles in different companies and different sectors, and try to address those, right? Like you're not, as you mentioned, not all of them are going to have this problem, but you can start to be more efficient, at least in that way, finding, okay, I know people in this particular role, in the IT department, for example, might be dealing with security issues or whatever it may be. And you can start to kind of scratch that itch, or at least show them that you really understand, what it is that they do, right? On a very, very basic level, the person who's receiving the email should understand that you get what I do, right? If you can't show them that you know what they do or what they're dealing with, why should they give you any time with that? I really like how you framed it, though, in terms of less about value, more about the problem. I think the problem is also just a great way to show that you get it. And I think now that people talk about this idea, and I'm curious to hear what you think about this, but consultative selling, right? Like this is kind of how a lot of us approach sales now, which is less about sort of feature selling. It's more about, hey, let's try to figure out how we can solve this problem, and maybe our product or our solution is the right one, maybe it's not, but let's approach it in more of a consultative way. Is that in line with kind of what you and your team do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, this isn't an original thought. It was Mark Roberge. He had the philosophy, and we try and say this regularly, is think and sell like a doctor. And what I mean by that is everyone listening to this can imagine the last time they went and saw their doctor. Here's how it played out. Regardless of what condition you had, you walked into the doctor's surgery, the doctor's office, sorry. They said to you, what brings you here today? What symptoms do you have? How long have you had them? How much does it hurt? What have you done to try and solve that? What medication have you taken? They then do a few routine tests, be that listening to your chest, your heart, temperature, whatever. Only when they've asked you those questions Do they propose a solution? The conversation is not about the doctor. You don't know where they studied, how long they've been a doctor for, what makes them so experienced. You trust them, right? You don't necessarily like your doctor, but you trust them because they've listened to you and they've asked you good questions and they've understood what brought you here today. And then only then do they prescribe the medication. And here's the thing, when you get that medicine, you don't say, I need to think about it. You don't say, I can't afford it. You don't say, let me go and speak to another doctor and call me in 6 months. You say, thanks very much. And you take your medicine and start to feel better. And the key bit to all of that is the doctor doesn't always give medicine out. If they don't believe that they can help you with medication, they tell you to carry on and you'll be just fine.
Right.
And a lot of people you speak to will be just fine. They don't need medicine. Our job is to find those that have those problems and are open to taking medication, which we can solve.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think it also gives us a lot more credibility, right, when we're doing sales. And I think people are smart. People know when they're being sold to at any cost. And if you're going in there kind of guns blazing, like this is why we're amazing and why you need this, is specifically this, it smells bad, right? And people react that way. When you take a much more consultative approach, you can also be much more authoritative, much more credible, and people can say, okay, maybe now is not the right time, but in 3 months I'll circle back with you because this is somebody who gave me confidence. So I agree with that. I'm curious, a big phenomenon that we see now is around sort of social selling, people using not just email, of course, we're very used to hearing about email calls as well, but now a lot of people focusing on LinkedIn, for example, really living there, staying top of mind in that way. Is that something that you encourage your team to do as well?
100%. So I think building a personal brand is the biggest opportunity for anyone in sales right now. And just here's some reasons top of mind, right? There's so many, but 99.9% of LinkedIn profiles don't create any content. So it's really quick to stand out from the crowd. Secondly, whatever you do with your personal brand, it is yours. You take it with you wherever you go next and wherever you go beyond that and beyond that and beyond that. You have to invest into it. It can take as long as 6 months, maybe longer, to get any traction. But if you can consistently, every day, write content about what you care about, the problems you solve, and really educate the market and try to be like what, air quote here, like thought leaders, you are going to be top of mind. People that don't necessarily respond to you are going to start to see you pop up. It's almost like retargeting adverts, right? They're going to feel like they know you. They're going to feel like you can be trusted, like a trusted advisor, and you are going to have more credibility. One of our SDRs, Lucy, she says, I don't build lists. My lists are built for me because I write content every day. People that engage with it are my ICPs because I write the content for them. And that's who I follow up with. And immediately it's personalization, right? Thanks so much for showing my LinkedIn post some love. It's funny you've got in touch. People typically in your role have these problems. Don't suppose that's you. Bang. Really easy. And actually people get a little, they've replied back to me. Because when you start posting content, you immediately give this false perception, because anyone can do it, but people trust what you're saying because you've put it out there. You must know what you're doing to put it out there. And you'll get sick of writing content long before people get sick of reading it. The first 6 months, no one's reading it. It's just you and maybe your parents who want to see what you're up to. I know my dad reads every one of my LinkedIn posts, and for a long time it was like that. But after 2-3 years of constantly writing content, my meetings come to me. I've still got a quota, but people will regularly message me because I'm top of mind, because they've seen a post and they want to revisit previous conversations, or they want to have a new conversation with me. Creating a personal brand is key, and any SDR not doing it is missing a trick. And you can start right now. All you have to do is comment on this video, which will be on LinkedIn. Comment what you liked, connect with us, and you've started the journey. And from there, create your own blog post. Sorry, LinkedIn post. I just watched this interview with Mark Ackers. Here's what I loved. It's such an easy starting point, and you can just keep going from there, from there, from there.
It's so true, and I think especially sales is so much about time, right? And we know that when we're doing cold outreach, more often than not, the timing's not going to be right. And we know that. We take it for granted when we do it, and that's why a lot of no's could be because the value prop doesn't align with the problem that they're facing, et cetera. But it could just be, well, we're not looking for a new tool right now, et cetera. They have other priorities. But I think specifically for that reason, this social selling, this being active on LinkedIn, and most importantly, probably being quote unquote a thought leader, creating a sense of credibility for yourself is all that more important, because when you stay top of mind, even if 3 months ago the timing wasn't right, now the people you've connected with and maybe you've reached out to in the past can start coming back much more organically, and it doesn't have to be that kind of, well, unless you send them an email again, they're going to forget about you. It happens kind of what do you call it, a fly trap in a way. So I think it's extremely powerful, extremely powerful.
It leads to other opportunities as well. I mean, you would not have had me on this podcast if you hadn't seen me creating content on LinkedIn. It just leads to bigger and better opportunities. Recently, with what's happening in the world, I've seen great sales reps be let go. Bang, hundreds of likes because they've got a personal profile. People wanting to speak to them. They want to get them in. There is so many benefits.
Absolutely. Well, this has been extremely eye-opening and so fun talking with you. I think I think we probably go on for another hour easily with all the tips and insights that you have. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. I think it's just be really insightful for everybody watching. So we look forward to continuing following your content, which obviously how we discovered you and all the great stuff you post on LinkedIn. So we encourage everyone to do the same. And thanks again.
No worries. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it.